Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to see so many people here with us today to hear from, of course, our military and Veterans Affairs experts. You know, we have so many people in San Antonio that come from that space, whether you've had someone who's served in your family or whether you have served or have a child or spouse that's serving. It's a lot, and there's a lot of opportunity for us to learn and to utilize that learning to keep us going forward. But before I begin, I want to thank our Login and Learn series sponsor, and that is the San Antonio River Authority. San Antonio River Authority is generously committed to helping us with this Login and Learn series. As you all know, they're responsible for the upkeep and maintenance and quality of the San Antonio River from here all the way to the coast. And so they give us something that's special to us and makes us unique. And so we want to thank Sarah for all that they do and for certainly their sponsorship. Well, as you all know, ladies and gentlemen, San Antonio is proud to be known as Military City, USA. And we have an important responsibility to support our military service members and their families. Helping them smoothly transition from military service to civilian life is one of our highest priorities. Ensuring they have what they need to begin a career or begin their journey towards continuing education is extremely important. Navigating the path from military service to college and career courses can be confusing and intimidating. Today, our focus will be to provide our veteran audience with the tools and resources to help them and their families to achieve success, complete their chosen degree program, and find a job in the next professional adventure. That's what this is all about. We're excited to provide this opportunity for you to hear from a few of our finest in this space. Our panelists are Richard Delgado Jr., Director of Military Affairs at Texas A&M San Antonio, Dr. Michael Logan, Associate Director for Veteran and Military Affairs at the University of Texas at San Antonio, and Adriana Lee Allen, Director, Center for Veterans Affairs at the University of the Incarnate Word. We're going to hear from all three of them first, and then as you heard from Lori, we'll have time for questions and answer at the end. And please submit your questions utilizing the question function here that we have at the bottom. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, and he's a tremendous friend of mine and a tremendous friend of the organization and does just good work. His name is Richard Delgado Jr., and he serves as the Director of Military Affairs for Texas A&M University at San Antonio. As a former Marine, Richard understands what it takes to achieve personal, academic, and career success from both sides of the service. As a 2010 graduate from Texas A&M University in San Antonio, he also helps to lead the staff at the Patriots Casa, where they earnestly serve as a one-of-a-kind academic home of the brave for their military-affiliated student population. Richard, we're excited and honored to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Richard. I appreciate it. So thank you all for joining us. At the beginning of the presentation, I'll give you an overview of Texas A&M University, San Antonio. Being a Military City, USA, and being a new university here in San Antonio, even though we've just celebrated our 10th year, the university at its core of its mission is to serve our military community. So in retrospect, we created the military embracing culture here on our campus. The overall Office of Military Affairs at a glance, if we go to the next slide, this gives you an overview of kind of our office and kind of what we do here. So we certify roughly about 792 veterans and dependents, bringing in over $3.6 million. So a huge chunk of money that is guaranteed tuition by the Department of Veteran Affairs. In addition to that, as a state institution, we certify 565 veterans, family members, and spouses for the Texas Hazelwood. All of this is done with 4 full-time staff members and a total of 8 student workers, which roughly equates to 17% of our total student body is military connected in some facet. A couple of awards that we've gotten here this year is Best for Vets by Military Times. We moved up in rankings, which was an honor. So we're at number 35, and then U.S. Veterans Magazine just named us Best of the Best for 2020. So again, what we're doing here at A&M San Antonio is truly paying dividends. Go ahead and go to the next slide for me. So as I mentioned, the military embracing aspect for A&M San Antonio is we want to go above and beyond for our students, both those that are military connected and those that are not. We want to make sure that we're educating all the population here at A&M San Antonio of what we do, who we are, whether you've worn the uniform or not. So our Army ROTC has some great scholarship opportunities. And is part of the Roadrunner Battalion at UTSA. So there is a strong tie between A&M San Antonio and the University of Texas at San Antonio. What most people don't know is we have one of two survivor tree seedlings here on our campus. The other one's in Fort Hood. The only two seedlings from the survivor tree that are dedicated to the military lost on 9/11. Total worldwide, there's only a little over 360 seedlings scattered throughout the world. So we're truly honored to have one here in our healing garden in our Patriots Casa. We were the first Purple Heart University in the A&M system and San Antonio. Part of what we do here at A&M San Antonio is our military cultural competency training. So Dr. Madsen, our amazing leader, made it mandatory that all staff and faculty really get to know what it's like to serve and the things that come along with it. So Dr. Kalmbach did a great job of leading that effort to making sure that all of our professors are on the same page. We do some of the key things that we do. Of course, celebrate America's military. We're a proud supporter of the Chamber's activities. So we're looking forward to the 50th anniversary this year of providing that support. Part of our university traditions is every incoming freshman receives the red shirt. So red for everyone deployed. So that's a university tradition. And we keep that going because, again, we don't just serve those that have served and their dependents. We also want to educate our entire students. And then a few other things is the parade, the San Antonio Veterans Parade. We host the Travis Manion 9/11 Heroes Run. So we're very involved not only in the community but nationwide. Go ahead to the next slide. As I mentioned, being military connected, we have grown significantly in the 10 years that we have been around. So in the last 5 years, since collecting data, our office has grown 98% in those 5 years. Our RTC unit, so the Jaguar Detachment, as I mentioned, part of the UTSA Roadrunner Battalion, has grown 650%. So again, we're doing a lot of things right, in my opinion. There's always room for improvement. But this shows that our numbers continue to grow. So A&M San Antonio being on the south side, it was much needed, and it shows that the Office of Military Affairs is on the right track. Next slide. So going to get into some of the meat and potatoes. I know Dr. Logan and Ms. Lee are going to cover other things. So a lot of the paperwork, I'm going to leave to them. I'm going to cover some key fixes and hopefully it answers some of the questions that you have. So with this COVID-19 that we're currently underway here worldwide, the VA needed to make some huge changes and it needed to happen really, really fast. So, and luckily for us, the Student Veterans of America did an amazing job to work with our elected officials to get some key changes passed. So one of the ones that we get questions with all the time is schools are going to online. So right now, all the way up until the end of the year, that's not going to affect your benefits. However, what I got to point out is if your courses were regularly scheduled to be online courses, that will not change. So if you were already doing an online course, your whole coursework was online, that's not going to change. These are for courses that were intended to be face-to-face that are now online. So you will still get the same pay that you normally would, even though the institution has changed it to online. The other key one is VA student workers, or VA work studies. If you are on contract, you will still get paid for up to 25 hours a week, even if your campus closed or you're working virtually. So that will maintain. So I know there was a lot of stress points, especially for those two, when it came to what it looked like and how we were going to proceed moving forward. So again, both of those go all the way up until the end of the year. The other thing that I wanted to point out is if your school did close, there are things in place to get your post 9/11 back. Of course, that's going to be a VA's call, but there's paperwork along with that to show them that, hey, my school closed. I want to get, 3 months back or whatever the case may be. The same thing with the extension of the GI Bill. So some of our student veterans and dependents are not under the Forever GI Bill that was recently passed. There's still that shelf life. So if in fact, because of everything that happened, the VA is now allowing that to be extended under certain circumstances. So again, a lot of options for you moving forward. The VA, along with our elected official, did an amazing job trying to get these passed, and they were passed fairly quickly to all of our surprise. Next slide for me. So I wanted to give you a couple of resources. So as I mentioned, the Student Veterans of America is a national organization. Most campuses have them on their campuses. Salute, the Veterans National Honor Society is on most campus. And then the rest of them are here local. So what I will ask you is that instead of getting your information from another veteran, please go to the institutions. So come to the subject matter experts, please, because what we're hearing is normally the scoop would be passed from veteran to veteran. Outstanding. That's great. However, with the way things are changing, we need to make sure that it's coming from the source. So hop on our website, UTSA, UIW, just make sure it's coming from us. And then some other organizations that provide scholarships, just camaraderie, things like that, Hero Sports. You got the Travis Manning Foundation, who has a San Antonio chapter, Team Rubicon. Of course, you have the VFWs, the American Legions, the USO. And then for benefits, both claims and others, the Department of Veteran Affairs, you got our Bexar County Service Office, and then the Texas Veteran Commission. And then my last slide is just a team. And then again, for more information on what we do here at A&M San Antonio, you can visit us at www.tamusa.edu/military. Our checklist, what we require as far as paperwork, all of that is on there. And then we're trying to do as much as we can getting the information out there. So if you want to follow us on our social media pages, we're doing a bunch of virtual events. Because again, the COVID-19, the way our population handled things, it's really not a big change for us because we were connecting them via social media and other things already. So go ahead and follow us on those platforms.
All right, Richard, thank you. Great information, and thank you for your continued service. The things that you're doing to help veterans and their families is commendable, and it's making a difference. So thanks very much.
My pleasure.
At this time, I'd like to introduce another talented leader, former Marine and Texas National Guardsman, Dr. Michael Logan. He's the Associate Director for the Office of Veteran and Military Affairs at the University of Texas at San Antonio, and has worked in higher education for over 13 years as an administrator and a professor. He manages the Center for Military Affiliated Students, which supports approximately 5,000 veterans, active duty, Guard and Reserve, and their family members. He has spent many years conducting research on student veterans' sense of belonging in college, as well as an increasing awareness of the veteran culture. Michael, we are very excited to have you here and looking forward to your insight. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Very excited to be here. I'd like to start off by just letting everybody know that although I do appreciate that introduction, one thing that I think is important for my fellow veterans to know about me is that I have done everything the hard way, as many of us tend to do. And so I've been in the position where I've been invited to sit out a semester due to extremely low GPA, and then had to use my grit that I gained through my service to come back. I did this while working full time, and of course, like a lot of us, with my familial obligations as well. I have 3 lovely daughters. 2 of them are adults, finally, and one of them is on the way to getting there successfully. So that's an important thing I think we need to point out, because Richard, also a Marine, in his shop over here at UTSA, and a lot of these organizations, we are also staffed primarily with either veterans or family members as well. And so when we consider these interactions that Richard suggested, where you come to the source to get the information, you're not getting a second or third hand opinion. You're getting the information straight from the horse's mouth and from a fellow veteran or family member. So with that, I'll get started. Next slide, please. So first, this is just a kind of profile of what the military affiliated population looks like at UTSA. It's grown quite a bit over the years, and so we break it down into three main groups. So just under 1,500 who wore the uniform, just over 3,200 family members, and then 470 Army and Air Force ROTC. So the total population is just over 5,000, and the growth rate is about 10 to 12% a year. So we'll see how that turns out given the current situation, but our growth has been pretty explosive over the last several years. And another thing I like to point out to folks is that on our campus, we also like to track how many faculty and staff veterans we have, because it's very important, especially for us, and having been someone who's gone through the higher ed process, it's important to know that we can relate to our faculty and staff. And so knowing who our faculty and staff veterans are is tremendously helpful, and it goes a long way towards community building on our campus. Next slide, please. So this is what our office looks like. The Center for Military Affiliated Students is kind of our forward-facing entity. So anyone that has any kind of interaction for any reason, be it a veteran, a family member, active duty, someone who's considering transitioning into higher ed, that's where they go. It's a one-stop shop for all military affiliated students. So we handle a large volume of interactions, because we talk to everyone about everything from resources that are available to one that everybody cares about, which is how's my school going to get paid for. We also help out with things like our program coordinator was able to assist one of our student veterans in acquiring a service animal at no cost to the veteran. Also got one of our student veterans a vehicle because he was having issues with his vehicle constantly breaking down and being unreliable, and that was affecting his ability to go to his appointments and attend classes. So we run the entire range, and so as you can see there, we have nearly 7,000 unique interactions in our peak months. This past month, which, you know, when you look at April, isn't necessarily a peak month, we were about 5,200 interactions, and that's everything. That's phone calls, emails, document uploader, everything. So obviously we handle GI Bill and certification for Hazelwood as well. We also have 2 of the 3 Vet Success on Campus counselors that are present in San Antonio. The third one is at the Victory Center at San Antonio College. And so that's a tremendous help for us, because anytime that we need to escalate anything to the VA, it's so much more convenient to be able to direct a student to one of our Vet Success on Campus counselors than have to send them to a website, an email, or a phone number where they may have to wait weeks to get a document or get some resolution. So that is a tremendous advantage to having them on our campus. We also have an entity called the Military Affiliated Collaborative, which is separate from the Student Veteran Association and is kind of designed to complement what they do. Since they're a registered student organization, the Military Affiliated Collaborative is more of an institutional side to that sort of engagement. And so together we're able to pull off some pretty impressive partnerships and programming. The university also has a Veteran Services Advisory Team, which is comprised of faculty and staff from all over the campus. And it's essentially a working group, so that anytime there's any issue that comes up, not necessarily a negative issue, but maybe a discussion on how to improve a process for our population, we have representatives that's campus-wide. Down at the bottom, you'll see the pictures. On the left is my boss, Colonel Lisa Carrington Furman. She is an absolutely fierce and staunch supporter for all military affiliated on campus, and I got to tell you, it is an absolute pleasure working for her. Mainly because the top cover that she provides and the clout that she has selfishly makes my job a lot easier, because then all I need to do is invoke her name and then I can get all sorts of stuff done. But in the end, it really benefits all of our military affiliated students to have somebody like that leading our department. You already know who I am. I promise my hair is not really that blue. And then on the right is our Assistant Director for Veteran Certification, Mr. Ruben Alaman, and he's an expert on the processes. And just to tell you folks, all of the advances that we've made in our ability to accept certifications remotely and to streamline the process and to get things done faster, Ruben has spearheaded all of that. So he's also doing tremendous work to make sure that our student veterans are able to have as much access as quickly as they can to their benefits. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of a blurb. Y'all can look at this later if you want to, but it's just it just shows the different ways that we try to maintain our contact with our population and our stakeholders. So we have several different ways that we do that synchronously and asynchronously. Most recently, I think what's been highlighted is we've always known that veterans, in particular student veterans, they do engage, but they engage differently than traditional students. Instead of coming on campus and maybe attending events and joining clubs, they still want to engage, but they tend to do so through either social media, chat groups, or veteran groups. And so since we had some of that infrastructure already set up to account for that in our unique population, the transition to remote operations during the COVID outbreak had minimal disruption to us and our ability to engage with our student veterans. Next slide, please. And so this is kind of what I wanted to emphasize today, which is how easy we try to make it for one to begin using their benefits, because that's really the first question anyone asks when they're thinking about going to college, be it a veteran or the family member. How do I get started? What do I do? And so what we've done is we have created, and I'm going to put the link here in chat, we have created checklists. An example of one of the checklists is there on the right side of that slide, where it shows you step by step what you need to do, where you need to go, and what documents you need to provide to be able to use whichever benefit you're using, be it one of the GI Bill chapters or Hazelwood. And so if you go to that link, you'll be able to find those checklists. And like I said, they come complete with links. So if we're asking you to go get a Joint Service transcript or a Community College of the Air Force transcript, the link for that is in the checklist as well. So we try to make that super simple just because we know as veterans we like checklists and they work for us. And we also try to require the minimum amount of documentation needed to get you all started. Obviously, the first time that you use a benefit, it's going to require a couple of extra documents just to establish eligibility. But moving forward to recertify for each subsequent semester, we require minimal documentation. And we also have what we call the document uploader, which is listed as one of the links on those checklists, where once you have the document, you go to the document uploader and you can either take a high-res picture or scan it in, and you can submit your certification requests from anywhere at any time, and we will get them. Next slide, please. And so we have several partnerships, much like A&M San Antonio does, and that's just because personally I believe that the ethos of the military translates into veteran culture as well. We're all a big family, we're all a big partnership, and we all exist to support each other no matter what. And so because of that, we do have an extensive list of partners to include the ones that you see there. And specifically, I'd like to highlight a couple of them. CPS Energy has been very proactive in reaching out to provide relief and advising for anyone who's got any kind of fiscal exigency, so that there are some ways that perhaps we can adjust some of the expenses before a veteran has to go and ask for emergency funds, because in our experience, veterans can be very stubborn and prideful and will resist having to ask for any kind of emergency funding. So we provide alternatives to them so that we can manage some of the crises they may run into without having to go towards an emergency fund. Second of all, Black Rifle Coffee Company. I don't know if anyone's aware, but they opened a center here, one of their offices here a couple of years ago. And so we've partnered with them to provide a pool for part-time seasonal employment. And so as some of you know or don't know or will find out, when you receive a housing allowance on one of the chapters of the GI Bill, it only pays out for the days that you sit in class. So there's gaps when you finish the fall semester and you don't come back till mid-January for the spring semester, that housing allowance stops. And so what we've tried to do is establish these partnerships to provide opportunities for these vets to be able to go and do some part-time seasonal work to cover the gap, essentially, that happens in between semesters with regard to the housing allowance. Additionally, Black Rifle has also been very supportive of our programming, and they're one of our two main sponsors for one of our signature events, which is Coffee for Vets, the other sponsor being the Student Veteran Association. Next slide, please. And so here's just some things that we've done as an institution. As far as cultural competency, we also have a module that we provide for our faculty and staff. We also frequently get invited to come give our cultural competency presentation to student workforces. So you have a lot of student workers that work in the library. We have a very large group of tutors. We're involved in a lot of their annual and semester training so that we come in and we kind of give them a rundown on what vet culture is. We also provide cultural considerations training for the vets themselves, because as we all know, cultural competency goes both ways, which is why we kind of use the term cross-cultural competency. And so we try to do what we can to help veterans transition from the military into higher ed, with the idea looking forward to maximize their employability when they leave UTSA. We've also got a couple of other resources there, such as the Adapt and Overcome book and our own original research, which we asked a lot of questions to try and get a pulse of what's going on with our vets, how they feel about being student vets, how they engage, and the factors that contribute to their success and their sense of belonging on campus. And so we tried to take a very informed approach to all the programming and support we provide to our student veterans. I look forward to seeing what your questions are in the Q&A portion. There's our contact information.
Thank you, Michael. Well done. Thank you and your team as well for all the great work and continuing to support veterans and their families. It's a big deal, and it's making a difference, so thanks. Next, we're eager to hear from Adriana Lee Allen, who's the director, the Center for Veterans Affairs and she's the school certifying official at the University of the Incarnate Word, where they serve over 1,000 military-affiliated students. She also serves as an advisor for the University of the Incarnate Word Student Veterans of America chapter, consisting of over 254 members. She has been working for the University of the Incarnate Word for over 8.5 years. Adriana, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard and Lori Stinson and the entire San Antonio Chamber of Commerce for having me and providing this webinar. My name is Adriana Lee Allen, of course, and I'm the director for the Center for Veterans Affairs at UIW. And in this brief presentation, I hope to give our viewers some insight into who we are at UIW, how we are serving our military-affiliated students, and what we are doing to adapt during this pandemic, which has required that of all of us. The Center for Veterans Affairs at UIW was established in 2009. Our office is located right in the heart of Canton, our Student Engagement Center. We are currently operating virtually with our students. We are a proud Yellow Ribbon School and have been since 2011. We're also the largest Catholic university in Texas, and in fiscal year 2019, we've serviced 1,198 students utilizing the GI Bill and 1,159 students utilizing tuition assistance. And in the spring of 2019, we had 41 Army ROTC cadets. We have a vast amount of programs that we offer at UIW, undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral, which you see on our screen. And one of the most popular programs I'd like to highlight for veterans and their spouses is our School of Professional Studies, which is exclusively an adult learning program for the busy adults. They offer classes already online and during evenings and Saturdays as well. These are accelerated courses with reduced tuition. There's a military discount associated with that. You know, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, it already had such a great framework, so the transition to online learning was really not a big adjustment for us and for our students. I'd also like to highlight some of the programs that we offer at UIW for veterans in partnership with Affiliation. We're in partnership with the PeerPost, which is basically an online resume writing tool for veterans, where veterans can upload online and PeerPost will take their experience into civilian language that is more readable for someone with a non-military background. So that's a great tool we're proud to offer. We We also have a VA social worker on our campus. It's there on a bi-weekly basis. Right now, she is still meeting with students virtually by Zoom and by phone. I'm also really excited to share we have some new programs we are adding this fall of 2020. We just recently signed a contract with Meals for Vets. And what that's going to do is for eligible veterans, they are going to get 5 free meals a week through our cafeteria. We also were recently selected for the PAY program, which is a peer program for veterans. When incoming student veterans will be with current veterans who maybe have been in there for over a year, just to show them the ropes, if you will, and provide that camaraderie and make that transition easier. And at the Center for Veterans Affairs, we are connecting students really daily to school resources and community resources way beyond just the daily certifications. And these full resources capacity, almost the same capacity since COVID-19, and we're really trying to ensure that students are still taking advantage of those resources. And I'd like to share those with you today. So obviously, a very important one is financial aid. So at UIW, we offer scholarships, work study, we offer military tuition discounts, which you see on your screen. And as I mentioned, we are a yellow ribbon school. And since the COVID-19 pandemic has hit, we received a little over $2.6 million through the CARES Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, which is there to assist our students who are experiencing a hardship during this time. And as of May 12th, we distributed aid to 4,542 students for a little over $2.2 million. There's also a lot of opportunities for students to get involved at UIW. We have America chapter at UIW with over 224 members. They have monthly meetings, which they are still doing right now virtually through Zoom. And they perform community service projects together and just have great social functions, great camaraderie amongst them. For mental health, as I mentioned, we have a VA social worker available. And we also have our very own UIW counseling department, which is currently meeting with students virtually. And right now during this time, they're averaging meeting about 15 to 20 students a day. We also have a student disability services department, which actually has 3 student veteran work studies working there in the department, providing helping, assisting, providing accommodations with those with documented disabilities. And right now, during this pandemic, we also have tutoring services available, food services for our students, and a wonderful career services department, which is actually located right across from the Center for Veterans Affairs. And they connect students and alumni to employer partners for job placement. They assist with resume writing and interviewing skills. We also hold many events throughout the year, a lot of military appreciation sporting events. We actually had 3 last year. We had football, basketball, and softball. And we hold a lot of social events for military affiliated students to come together. We have pizza parties. And we actually in the fall just held the first veterans retreat, a spiritual retreat. We partnered with our mission and ministry department, and we were happy to provide that for our students. And since the COVID-19 pandemic has hit, we still have been offering events, and we've shifted a lot of them online virtually. So the picture you see in front of you is a recent SVA meeting we had. We were all really excited to see one another. We hadn't seen each other in a while, so that was great. since the COVID-19 pandemic has hit, we really want to make sure that the communication line there is still with our students, and that we are providing them the most up-to-date information. So we've really stepped up our efforts there. We've increased our presence on social media. We've done email check-ins with our students, just saying, we're here for you. How can we connect you to other resources? If you need anything, please let us know. And we've also created a weekly newsletter, which we are providing to our students just to consolidate all the resources that are available to them. There are still so many that are out there for veterans and their families, and we want to be sure that that information is getting to our students. And finally, I just want to give a shout out and a big congratulations to our student veteran graduates who will be graduating this May 30th in a virtual commencement ceremony. We're so very proud of them, and they have all received a Veteran Stole, Tribute Stole, which you see on the screen in front of you. A big congratulations to them, all our veteran graduates. That concludes my presentation. Thank you again for having me and providing this webinar, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Adriana. Well done, and congratulations to you and your team as well. Every bit helps, and it's making a difference, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to the question portion, and we have several that have been submitted so far. I'll just throw it out there, and then each of you, if you want to just chime in, or if one of you wants to take the lead, please, we'll just do it that way and figure it out together. So this one came in via actually an email, and it says, so it's kind of a broad, and you've covered a lot of it, but I'll ask it anyway. What do you do to assist our veterans transition from college to career? Any tips you have to share on how to get them into a fulfilling career right after completing their degree?
I'll start on that one.
Okay, Mike.
I'd like to point out that one of the best tools for that is something that Adriana has listed on her presentation, which is PeerPost. And one of the big things that we know, that veterans, when they get out of the service, have a lot of really good social capital that a lot of employers are really looking for. The challenge is how do you translate those experiences and those traits and those leadership skills in a way that makes sense to non-military employers and doesn't completely terrify them, because let's face it, sometimes we word things technically as they were to us in the military, and sometimes when applicant reviewers looking at different resumes, some of those terms can either be confusing or even off-putting or scary. And so what PeerPost does is their platform, it takes your military experience, and you can plug in anything. If you have reviews or any evaluations, pros and cons, anything like that, you can plug it into the PeerPost platform, and what it gives you is kind of a translation. It's a translation tool like Google Translate. And so not only can you take that information and use it to build a resume, but you can also take that information and use it to develop talking points and strategies for interviews. And so by using that tool first and then dovetailing that in with the different career services that are available on the different campuses, I think that exponentially increases the value of participating in mock interviews and getting guidance from career services, so that when the actual interviews begin, then that's just icing on the cake, because you already know you bring that social capital to the table. Second of all, one of the big pluses, I think, is to really emphasize the importance of the cross-cultural competency aspect, because part of the whole purpose of going to college, half of it is to learn, right, to gain knowledge. The other half of it is to be exposed to ideas and thoughts that are new and different, to kind of expand what your paradigm looks like. And since veterans a lot of the time are non-traditional students, and so they're attending either part-time, remotely, online, or they come to class, go to class, and then they have to go to work or go home, that piece kind of is lower in priority to them. But it's important for us as the veteran service offices on the campuses to make sure that our population knows that it is essential that they gain some of those extra little pieces of social capital and soft skills development that come with some of those interactions that they otherwise might be missing out on campus, and how important that's going to be moving forward, because a lot of employers are looking at not just what do you know and what is your skill set, but how good of a fit are you with the organization. And a lot of that is determined by how you present yourself via soft skills.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, and I think what Mike mentioned was right on. The other thing I would add is being a Military City USA and having, being a partner of the Chamber and all of the nonprofits that are, headquartered here in San Antonio. I know, for example, we'll send our students over to the USO Pathfinder. So there's a lot of things that I know all three of our offices do, because it's not a central approach. So this is where the network, this is where the Chamber, there's leads that I've gotten, for example, from Lori that say, hey, X corporation is looking to hire people, and then the talent that's coming from our campuses is already there. So again, it's utilizing the network that we have along those same lines.
Excellent point. Great. All right, well, we'll move on to another question. So this is from one of our business members that's watching. What are some of your specific needs in your particular veterans programs, and how can business and industry help and participate? Anybody?
Well, I can hop on that one as well. Those partnerships are kind of essential to not only success academically while a student is here in a student status, but also beyond. And so I know a lot of the ways that we've been able to successfully interact with businesses and other entities in the community is up front is to kind of a couple of different ways. Number one, it's to be able to set up programming where we can begin the transition process from student to employee long before that transition is supposed to take place. So partnering with recruiters. I know that CIA recruiters have a huge presence on our campus. We have the National Security Collaboration Center. That's 30 federal entities that exist on campus, and every single one of them expresses interest in, all right, how do we connect with your student vets, and how do we match their, what they want to be when they grow up to what our needs are for staffing, and how do we have this engagement? And so what that's led to is we've developed kind of a screening process where when a student veteran comes in and they ask about being able to engage with any of our community partners and businesses in the community, we ask a series of questions. We get kind of the information that most folks are interested in getting, including things like, did you have a security clearance while you were in? And then we try to do our best to match them up with potential employers and businesses that align with their interests, so that they can begin either formal or informal mentorship to begin doing things like, I know when we do internships, one of the goals of an internship is not only for you to showcase your skills to a potential employer, but for the student themselves to decide via practical experience, is this really what I wanted to do in the first place? Is this what I thought it would be? And so having that engagement from businesses in the community where we can partner with them and just and have these either formal internships or informal mentorships, or even networking and engagement when we have our various events, and then there's representatives from these different businesses in the community where they have a chance to engage one-on-one with veterans that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to, because the veterans might have assumed that the only way you can have those conversations is through a formal setting like applying for a job and for an interview. So just having the contacts and having that communication and inviting these different stakeholders in the community to just participate in our informal networking events creates all kinds of relationships. And also, I think it builds trust between the student vet population and the employers in the community, that when they say that they're interested in veterans and are veteran friendly, that it's a legitimate sentiment and not something that somebody's just saying to, for a soundbite. And in my experience, the businesses that do come across and say that they are veteran friendly and San Antonio has military embracing, they mean it. And so just stepping forward, saying, hey, I'm interested in engaging, so that we can make sure that our sizable vet population becomes aware of that as well.
Excellent. And of course, after, give me 1 second, Adriana. We'll have all of y'all's contact information, of course, so that any of these businesses that are interested in connecting with you all and providing opportunities like you've just laid out, Mike. So rest assured that's going to happen. Please, Adriana, go right ahead. Sorry.
I'd also just like to add that scholarships is a great way to help. That is a need sometimes for some of our students. They might run out of their benefits for either themselves or their spouse or their children, and so I think that'd be very helpful, and that is a need sometimes that we see.
Excellent resources for sure. All right, so we've got another question that's interesting that I'll ask you all. Do JROTC students visit your campuses, or other high school students with strong dispositions to military service and culture, such as the Boy Scouts or Civil Air Patrol, that sort of thing?
So absolutely. General Rodriguez trained me well. So he was kind of led the team and led most of what we have here now is due to his leadership. What I will say is the relationship between, I know, A&M San Antonio and JRTC is strong. We host at least once a year the instructors to come out for the campus, and then we open the doors, because at the end of the day, I think I can speak for all three universities here, is we want to make sure that the goal and getting a university degree is attainable. And with the resources out there that are all at our fingertips, we could help them get there. They just need to have the drive and the will to do it. So JRTCs have been a huge benefit to A&M San Antonio and the relationships. So hopefully in the next couple of years, you'll see in the works is a JRTC drill meet. So again, with the partnership with the Roadrunner Battalion at UTSA, we're really trying to navigate all of that. And because JRTCs and ROTC is under the same 5th Brigade, it's easier for us to navigate those relationships because they're already in tune all together. So again, it's streamlining that process from high school to higher ed, and making sure that these young people know that university life is for them, and it is something that is achievable.
Excellent. How about you two, Mike, Adriana? Any of that going on at y'all's campus as well?
Absolutely. The Roadrunner Battalion here at UTSA, they actually, I think it's the Air Force ROTC. I'm not sure which one of them it is, but we do host an annual drill meet for JROTC. And in addition to that, we have our fall military appreciation football game. And this last year, the game that we played was UTSA versus Army. So as you can imagine, that was a huge spectacle, and there was all sorts of interesting things there. And we actually invited several ROTC units, specifically the ones that had performed well in the previous year with regard to their drill teams, to come and participate, and they actually got to do a little demonstration at the game itself. And so a lot of that is designed to, for lack of a better term, introduce them to university culture, right? Because when we're talking about those kinds of students, JROTC, Civil Air Patrol, Boy Scouts, those are going to align more with the traditional student population. And so a lot of the, program-specific stuff and engagement that we've developed for veterans doesn't necessarily apply to those groups. And so the emphasis when we're dealing with those with the high school students is really trying to expose them to campus culture and campus traditions, just to let them know that it very much is a community, because realistically, a lot of the high schoolers that join those organizations, they join them looking for camaraderie and community building. And so what we try to do is demonstrate that is definitely part of the culture at our campus as well. And so if that's an important thing to them, then college isn't all about stress and exams and going to class and everything. It's very much joining a whole different kind of family organization.
Excellent.
Richard, real quick, I will mention that it has been huge for us is the partnership between A&M San Antonio and the Girl Scouts of Southwest Texas. So General Salinas leading the Girl Scouts, we have become a patch partner focusing on patriotism. So right now, we're in the midst of finding a first awardee for a scholarship with the Girl Scouts. So it's little things like that that I think universities are really honing in on, creating that next generation and making sure that we all are teaming up together, regardless of whether you come to A&M San Antonio, UTSA, UIW, University of Our Lady of the Lake, other ones. We got to make sure that we're all on the same page, which is amazing to see.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, well, we'll move on to another question. So this is going back to the benefits and stuff. How have VA work-study programs been affected by COVID-19?
I can tell you that in my shop here at UTSA that the way that VA work-study has been affected is that they have not experienced any drop at all in workflow and volume. In fact, most of our operations have continued on as they were before, just remotely. That's the only difference. And so we've leveraged our student workforce in new and innovative ways to include things like putting more eyes on our social media platforms to catch questions, comments, things like that as they come up. Because there's so many different social media platforms, it becomes difficult for one or two full-time staff members to focus on that and also be able to do things like recertify 2,500 students because the term got extended by 2 days. So our student workforce has been key. They have not lost any opportunity to participate in the VA work-study program. In fact, I just submitted a whole bunch of contract extensions because the work is definitely still there. And I know that they've appreciated the opportunity to continue working through the pandemic. And there's also been some that opted to not continue working until we return to campus. And so to those student workers, we treated that almost like a furlough in that we are leaving the door open to them so that once operations return to normal, we very much would like them to come back. But we have left all the opportunities out there, and we have not seen any evaporation of opportunity or contracts or availability of hours, anything like that. It's been business as usual.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so we're getting close to the end, but I'm going to try to add another couple questions in here. So the question is, what if a military service member gets called to active duty? What happens?
Well, that's going to be up to the individual campuses. And the reason I say that is because every university has its own policy on how they handle that. So, for example, at A&M San Antonio, that service member would come to my office, or if he or she has already deployed, send orders. And then we work closely with the registrar's office, depending on where it is in the semester. So, for example, this past semester, we had students deploy or get activated there at the end of the term, at the end of the spring semester, due to COVID-19. Well, instead of taking them out of school, which our policy clearly defines that we can do that, we worked with the professors so they could finish out their term. A couple of them did get incomplete, so they could finish their work during summer. But that's where the relationship between each of our offices come in key when working with faculty. Because while it's easy, policy says that we could pull them out, no harm, no foul. That's not in the best interest of the service member in this case, because then they would have to come back and take all those classes again. So I know that's been a big thing, and it's going to continue to be a big thing. But again, what I would recommend is them reach out to their military or veteran affairs office and kind of get the guidance from that team because, again, each of us handle it a little different. But at the end of the day, I will say, and then I think I can speak for all of us here, is we're going to do what's in the best interest of the service member at all times.
Great. Well, I think you're right, Rich. Everybody's got a little bit different process, right? Your different organizations, and so you follow what the rules are. But I heard a lot of flexibility there, and you all's ability to be the advocate, I think, is key to making that experience as easy and as stress-free as possible. So good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you all for joining us. We're right at the end of the hour, and I just wanted to say thank you. Your expertise, your passion, your drive to help veterans and their dependents is important, and it comes right through in the things that you've said. So congratulations to all three of you for joining us and for continuing to do the work that you do. It really makes a difference.